Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 19 of constructing the car project. Okay, so in the previous lesson, we started building some of the fillets over here. So I think I'm going to start by continuing on over here. Okay, so I'm first of all going to delete the construction history on these because I'm pretty happy with the size. I think a highlight looks pretty good. Okay, and I'm going to continue on over here. So I'm just going to create, well, actually, instead of creating two lines and having to align them, I think I can just extend these two. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because if I just do a fillet here, I think the size was 150, form factor of 0.5, and just leave that for free. You'll see that it's actually leaning, the shape is a little bit weird. Actually, it's not that bad, but because there's a little wiggle in the room, in the line, I think I can do a little bit of cleanup by doing this. So I just did an extend, and I'm just going to do a project on both sides. Over here and over here, and just gonna delete the surface. Trim over here and trim over here. I'm gonna use a square like this. Curvature on both sides. 4 needs to be curvature, but looks like 2 needs to stay. You'll see that the CV is splaying open a little bit. Let's see if I can. Okay, looks like the position is failing. Okay, so I think I'm gonna have use a little bit different solution for that. Okay, so 4 also needs to be curvature, and let's see if that works. So right now it says a fail. So let's find out why. I mean, the highlight looks really good. There's a little bit of wiggle, but that's okay. I think that is due to having 2 surfaces over here. And so I would say that's good enough. However, we do want to check why it's not meeting curvature. So let's try to fix that. Okay, so this one, I'm going to delete construction history also. So surface continuity, I'm going to turn on show max label and show com on. Okay, so it says curvature deviation 1.0, that's an alias error. So I'm gonna just leave that because it is due to the original surface being a little bit too flat. So it's a calculation error within the system. So I'm gonna just let that go. This one on the other hand, I think I can match it. Okay, so that's good. I'm going to make sure that I didn't break any curvature continuity over here. So that's still continuous. And this one, I'm going to see if I can do a line position. And I'm going to say partial. Okay, looks like that's actually deviating a little bit. I'm going to see if I can do this. No, I don't think it's working that well, but should I leave blend factor of 2? So it's, you know, sort of a gentle curve. I'm going to see if I can actually do an align and see if that'll work. So I'm going to turn the blending off, G2. Yeah, I see a potential for it to work. So curvature, and looks like we were able to achieve curvature on all sides, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so it worked out a little bit better than I thought it was going to. Okay, there's a little bit of wiggle, but I think I'm just going to leave that for now. Okay, delete the construction history and let's work on this area. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I probably want to blend these two. So let's see. So right now it's I mean it's the surfaces are very close. There's not a lot of deviation, but we still need to blend it because right now it's not continuous. So I'm going to do that. So in order to do that, I'm going to say insert, something like that. Close. I want to be equal distance. Okay, so I because of the shape, I don't think that's going to work. So I'm just going to do a surface fillet between the two. I'll just change the form factor to 1. Oops, arrow pointing the other way. Okay, let's make that a little bit bigger. I mean, because this is supposed to be a large blend, it's supposed to be soft too, you know, having a bigger doesn't hurt. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Now, I do need to blend this one, so let's see if I can do that. Say chord, I'm gonna start with 100 and see how that looks. 100, I think I can go a little bit bigger. And I also don't like how it's climbing up. Yeah, I don't like that. So I think I'm gonna build it a bit manually. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to duplicate the curve over here. And I'm gonna measure an approximate size between the two. This one I'm gonna make it a little bit big just so that it can be a little bit soft. And I'm also going to extend it over here. Actually, I do have a, yeah. Okay, I'm just going to extend it. Like that, and like that. So I think it's about pretty close in distance. So I'm just going to turn the construction history, delete the construction history. And I'm going to use project on both sides. Now the curve here looks kind of funny because I extended it, so you can just turn it to degree 2 and it'll sort of retain the curvature from the side view. So I mean, this is just a project curve, so you don't have to be like super detailed about it, but it does need to be, you know, good enough. So I think that looks good, and let's start the fillet. So I'm going to trim over here and trim over here. And I'm going to use this surface in order to create a fillet. So G2 and G2 on both sides. I'm going to say explicit control on, because previously it was a degree 4 and then we had a span. So I'm going to turn explicit control on to achieve degree 5. So I don't like the shape. Right now it's a little bit smaller corner. It's a small angle, but that's okay. Let's see if I can actually create a surface between all these edges. So four edges, so we use the square tool. 4 is going to be free. I'm going to turn the rebuild off, and 2 is going to be curvature, and I'm just going to leave the explicit control on. So we were able to achieve curvature on number 3. Let's see, number 3 and number 1 side, but G2 side is not. So I'm going to see if I can make that a little bit better. Okay, so you'll see that there's a little wiggle here, so I'm going to try to manually fix that. So let's see if I can let's see if the boundary blend helps. Looks like it's actually making a little bit worse. So I'm just going to leave that over there. Now this is also probably because of the primary surface, but I think the highlight looks pretty good. Okay. So let's find out why it's not achieving curvature on the top. So I'm going to check. Okay, so it looks like it's positional, and okay, so if that's the case, I'm going to use a line, and we were able to achieve curvature. There's a little CV shift, but we are able to achieve curvature without it. So let's leave it at that. And I'm just going to check, and we're curvature continuous. Now there's a little CV dip right here. So I'm going to see if I can just pull this out just a hair without ruining the curvature continuity over here. So I'm going to see if I can pull that out a little bit. Okay, so yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Now it's a little bit off, so I'm just going to use a slide tool, just a little bit. Oh, maybe that's a little bit too much. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, and there's a very nice highlight flow from here to there. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to delete the construction history on this. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to have everything blend over here. So if you notice in the picture, you'll see that this feature actually dives down, and I'm going to try to recreate that. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. Yeah, I'll probably cut it somewhere over here. So I'm just going to extend this curve right here. Actually, before we continue, let's delete, make sure everything, the construction history is deleted. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to extend the curve over here. And I'll just strike a line over here. And I'm going to cut this space out so that we can actually connect to there. So I'm going to say project on both surfaces like that. I'm going to trim it out over here and over here. Oh, okay. So I think I trimmed out a little bit too much. So, well, two things we can do. You can either do a trim and keep both sides, or I can just extend the curve so that, you know, it's the curved surface is shorter. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trim it where this corner is. So let's see. I'm just going to temporarily untrim this, and I'm going to use project over here, and I'm going to trim over here and see if that works. Okay, so trim again, and I'm going to create a curve from here to here. This, and I'm going to do a align. Now this might create a little bit of harsh transition, but we'll see. I'm hoping that it won't be. So square, we're going to have to do a blending anyways, but I'm hoping that it's a little bit soft transition. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. It needs to be curvature. Well, actually, 1 should not be curvature because we're going to put a fillet there. But 2 and 3 is curvature, and I'm going to reduce the number of CVs so that we can actually 4. And this should be 3. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, there's a little bit of highlight highlight funny going on, but well, it's a surface that's drawing a transition between this and this, so it is expected. However, I'm hoping that the fillet would reduce the effect as much as possible. So again, same thing on the other side, a square, and I'm going to say 2 is position, and 4 needs to be curvature. And let's see, 1. Okay, so that needs to be 4, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, so now you'll see the transition that's being created here. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fillet between these two surfaces. Okay, so in order to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a project and split this into 2 so that we have a easier surface to easier line to work with when we're blending these this 2 and this 2. Okay, so I'm just going to do a trim divide. So divide, and I'll just turn the history off. And I'm going to, right now we have a little transition sharp edge here. So I'm going to do a fillet between the two. Now this one, I don't know if a surface fillet is going to work well, but let's see. So 100, maybe a little bit smaller, 50. Arrow direction, nope, it's not working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a tubular offset. So let's go over here, tubular offset, and let's change the size to 50. It might be a little bit too big, but you want this transition to be a little bit just because of, well, basically the surfaces have to be a little bit smooth in transition. So I'm just going to try this, and I'm going to use a blend curve from here to here. Yeah, I think it's fitting quite well. I might want to give it a little more acceleration towards the center, just so that, yeah, I think that's good. Let's check the CV shape. CV looks good. Oh, okay, so that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So on this side, you'll see that the surfaces are actually split. So I might have to do a little bit of transitional surface down the bottom, but I'm hoping that it'll just work. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works. You'll see that the CVs are a little bit forced this way. I guess that's okay. We'll see how the shape is, and we'll make any adjustments if you need to. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 with square, and I'm gonna increase the degree. Yeah, you see it's a little bit weird. But I guess that's natural because we're trying to do a fillet on top of fillet. So 1 needs to be curvature and 3 needs to be curvature. Now it says 2, the position failed, but that's okay. 4, I'm gonna see if I can do that. Now the problem is I need a position continue over here, but as you can see, there's a little gap. So I guess that doesn't really change anything. Okay, so I'm gonna just leave it like that, and I'm gonna have to make a little bit of transitional surface right here. So a patch, maybe something like that, in order to make that a little bit better transition. Okay, so I don't know why it's not achieving curvature on number 3. So I'm just going to do a align, and I'm gonna say G2 over here, edge, and position influence maybe max. Nope, I don't need that. And I'm going to same thing over here. Okay, so we were able to achieve curvature. Now, the reason why it probably failed here is because the curve, the blend curve was I think blend curve was not perfectly aligned to the surface edge, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to delete the blend curve down there, and let's finish up by doing this one. So I'm just going to use a curve. Actually, it might be easier to just duplicate right here, and I'll just make that into a degree 1 surface, curve. And snap it here and snap it here. And I'm going to just do a center pivot and extend on both sides. And I'm going to say project and trim. And again, I'm going to use a blend curve over here on the top and over here. Because right now there are 2 patches going on here, I'm just using a blend curve in order to create sort of one edge for the square tool. Okay, so again, same thing. 1, 2, oops, 2, 3, and 4. So we were able to achieve curvature on both sides. Number 2 on the other hand probably needs a rebuild. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. And let's check out the highlights. Now, this is going to do that, but there's not much we can do. It's just because of this surface transitioning over here. So I'm going to guess that this But besides that, I think the highlight looks pretty good. There's a nice transition. I think it's a little bit harsh over here, but you know, for what it is, I think it's okay. If you see, but I think we were able to achieve the shape quite well. And if you see down here, we actually have a, you know, Audi E-Tron logo. So I think that's going to distract the viewer from a little bit from this little bit of weird highlight over here. And if you see the image, you'll also see that there's a little bit of highlight that's going up. So I think this is actually pretty close to the real car. However, there's no way to confirm unless I see the actual data or the real car. But for what it is, I think it looks pretty good. So I think this is a pretty good place to, yeah. I don't think, well, I think I can, it can use a little bit more love, but for what it is, I think it looks pretty good for now. So maybe I might need to make this fillet a little bit bigger, but for now, I think this is a pretty good place to stop. And in the next, maybe when I have time later, I'll try to do a little bit more refinement because I do see a little bit harsh transition over here. But like I said, we're going to have a black logo right here, so maybe that'll distract it. Okay. So that's it for part 19. We'll continue in the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching.